Thank you. Oh, sure. Welcome everyone to our community meetings for Monday, June 9th. We're going to start off with county services today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All meeting to order at 6:02. And tonight we have a few folks who would like to say a few words. Tyler, why don't we start with you and you can give us an update on what's coming up.
Okay, so yeah, we have actually June 20th, 11 a.m. We have our
Come on.
Yep.
Thank you. Better for Campbell. It's the minutes.
Sorry.
so June 20th we have our annual Ray Brooks Fishing Derby. That will be 11 a.m. to around 4 p.m. So definitely welcome everyone to be there. And this is the first year we'll be opening it up to the nursing homes and assisted living facilities in Greene County. So originally it was the VA long-term care facility, and now we've opened it up. So we're expecting a pretty big turnout, and we'd love for you all to be there. So pretty much what I got for upcoming events. But if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out. I'll have another email going out. But that's Thanks. Thanks.
Thank you. Amanda.
Pass these out, but while I'm giving that. And that's what I was just gonna, while I'm passing these out, I'm gonna mention it's the 21st. Okay. At the meeting on the 21st, we're also gonna be handing out the veterans, youth scholarship awards for the children of veterans. June 16th board meeting, right?
Yeah. No.
18th. It's okay. June 18th, full board meeting, we're gonna be giving out the 5 scholarships. We've had only 5 children applied. The 5 were actually 3 from Coxsackie. I believe it was 1 from Greenville and 1 from Catskill. We didn't have any interest from Wyndham Ashland Jewett, Hunter Kennersville, or Hero Durham. So we are hoping that this will incentivize kids next year to apply, so that way we can give one out in each of the districts. So I just wanted to give an update from the last committee meeting on the home delivered meals program. Can you hear me without talking to them? So in 2024, I had given some numbers to you the last time we were here. We were at 444 plus an additional 31 with caregiver respite services for home delivered meals. At the end of the first quarter, we were at 307. And then when we started the process of reevaluating the meal program, we were down to 242. Out of that 242, 37 individuals voluntarily called and removed themselves from the program, and 47 individuals countywide were removed due to ineligibility. So that leaves us with a total of 154. There were others that came off prior to us even starting the process. I mean, I know we kind of talked about this last time, but it isn't a static number. It ebbs and flows. I mean, people go into the hospital, it's much higher in the winter time because of this, people that are, don't want to go out because of the snow or can't get out well because of the snow. So we do see a downward trend in the summer months to begin with, just because people are out and about and are able to get out and go shopping and go to the senior centers, things like that. There's some new initiatives that we're trying to start or things we're looking into for costs, not only for cost savings, efficiency though, and also because we were informed by NYSOFA, some of our processes really just don't make sense at a recent visit that we had with them. We had a site visit last week. So in order to reduce some waste, need for extra staffing, things like that, we're going to condense to the centralized kitchen and we're going to start it internally. We already moved from cooking in Jewett to cooking in Acre and Jewett together at the Acre site and then cooking in Athens. In August, our plan is to then condense again and start cooking in Athens centrally for the whole county. We're just trying to find ways that when, we have 2 cooks that are out, we're not sending somebody to 2 different sites. We're sending them to 1 site. So we are still exploring other options as cook sites for a long-term plan. We're looking at the new Caro building as potential. We revisited the jail the other day just to see what the operations look like there again. I'm reaching out to companies like Mazone Catering who cooks off-site and they deliver to the centers for, counties like Saratoga County. So just kind of evaluating all the processes to see what really makes the most sense, where are we gonna save some money, but you know, it's not always about the money, quality is important. But just to make sure all of our efforts aren't going wasted, and like I said, we have a lot of moving parts, so we're just trying to condense so we can get an idea as to what it really needs to look like on a broader scale. Anybody who was deemed ineligible through this process was referred to one of the 5 senior centers for congregate sites. We also gave out information about the shopping bus registrations, Greene County transit schedules, the local food pantries, which deliver both fresh food and pre-made frozen packs. We've also given information about mom's meals, which is another option that they can private pay for. Currently, the Jewett Center is only serving 2 people daily. Actually, when my SOPA went there last week, it was 1 person. That's a significant amount of money that we are spending to serve 1 person at a congregate site. So one of the ideas that was tossed around was this idea that you can do a portable meal or grab and go. Or essentially, we can identify sites. I've already reached out to the library in Tannersville and the library in Wyndham, and that can serve or host as a grab and go site where you could reserve ahead of time the day before for a meal, and we can have those meals pre-packed. They're the same as the home delivered meals. They can be dropped off at that site, and you get face-to-face contact. You can engage with the library. You can pick up your meal. You can eat it there, or you can go home. It's limited for seating availability at the Wyndham site, but the Tannersville site said that, you know, we had 10-15 people that wanted to sit down and eat. There's plenty of room for them to do so. I do think it needs to be capped. I think we run the risk of, you know, we have 40 people. It's a lot to manage and keeping track of at each site. So I think 10 to 15 probably makes the most sense. But we're really gonna, I think our plan is to really kind of try this and see, gain an interest, see if it's, you know, is it people primarily from Tannersville? Is it people from Hunter maybe? Maybe we need to move it to Hunter. Hunter Library was interested as well, but again, I think we need to kind of keep it small till we can figure out what works best and then expand if we can. When the NYSOPA team was on site on June 4th, there was only 1 congregate person there as stated. And their recommendation is 10 or more for every site. I'm gonna be honest with you, there are a couple other sites that we flow just under 10 or just at 10. I mean, they're just not really well attended. So, you know, I mean, I think from this process, we have had more people hit the Coxsackie site. We've seen a little bit of an uptick in Catskill, but on a general spectrum, it's really not, you know, I think where we really should be. I mean, there are some counties that only offer 1 congregate site for reference, that are bigger than us and serve more clients. Because again, you don't really have the interest. So maybe it means more transportation and less sites and you transport the people to new sites. But these are things that we're just gonna go through the evaluation process on to just make sure it makes sense. Because again, what they're gaining from it, we're staffing it with a minimum of 1 person, if not 2. We're paying for volunteer mileage to those sites. We're paying for transportation, of shipping the food and the products and all that stuff to those sites. So this is all kind of taking away from funds that could be used to maybe do this grab and go option, which is a much more, you know, obtainable goal. So, anyway, so that's all just being looked at. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up.
I think the important part there is the pilot, the launching the pilot will allow us to evaluate the pros and the cons and the fundamental changes that we may want to implement here. Particularly from the standpoint of consolidation to a single location. I want to make sure that that comment that Amanda just made, because we're thinly staffed, when you have a person calling sick and you don't know that until morning, we're scrambling. We're sending people, sometimes we send administrative staff to some location. In fact, they are now, basically.
Yeah. Tammy and Francesca both cook this month. I
Right.
mean, Chester's out there often
But
cooking.
consolidated, bringing all the employees into a single center, then you get the efficiencies, you may have some attrition value there as well. But I think ultimately then the locations of where we're gonna shift to needs to be really reviewed, because the Jewett Center, not only is it kind of off the beaten track, it's a 5-floor locations, you got stairs that have to be climbed. Now, we're talking about a clientele that maybe doesn't want to do 10 stairs. So I think this is a perfect opportunity to really reevaluate and redesign. Also a review of the, what I would say, the strictness of the rules. You know, it's because you have a car, if you read the rule, you're ineligible. But the ability to use that vehicle, how far you can drive, where you can drive to, and then, okay, I can drive to the store, but can I navigate the store? Can I go through the lines? Can I push my shopping cart? Can I drag it back to my car? We may want to look at the evaluation of that and have the case managers have a little bit more flexibility than strictly black and white.
And the other things also, like the closeness of a relative to where they live, because that's always not good.
Yeah, just because my son or daughter is 5 miles away, they have a life, they have kids, and can they come over every day? This is a meal every day.
Right.
And can you stand in front of a stove, a microwave, et cetera? Can you make those cooking exercises? You're correct, yeah. Eric?
So when you're talking about the, consolidation, so, I mean, the county's making a huge investment in Carroll, in the senior center. I think we should take advantage of that, the county, and I think that should be your vision for the future. You should focus on that center for your cooking, because we are making this huge investment. I think we should take advantage of it, and not only that, Carroll, as we all know, the center of the county. But when you leave, you're in the
Yeah,
middle.
so we, with the concept of a consolidated single facility, we will look at the Carroll Center and the design will be there to accommodate. We may just not outfit right away.
Well, we can, right,
But I don't wanna be in a position of having to retrograde something later on. So if we design it up front, where is the Ansel system, where can it go? Where do the ovens go? Where does this go? Where does that go? Even though day one, we may not be using that site.
Right.
If, the town village of Athens is considering repossessing the Rivertown Senior Center, that may change our cooking center capacity if that domino keeps on falling over.
again, you're making the investment.
No, I get it.
So
I
let's keep
absolutely
that in mind, and let's move that way for the future. I mean, you're probably looking 3-4 years out, right? Probably 3 anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, yeah.
So, I would be working in that direction. So the county doesn't have to build 2 different things and add money to something they already invested in.
What was the trepidation to cook at the jail? We have a brand new big jail there. I mean, big
Location,
kitchens.
there was some concern about location and, I mean, it's,
Originally, it was location,
Yeah.
the driving distance, the sensors,
Okay.
because we were cooking differently.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We've changed our cooking methodology here, at least in terms of how this pilot would launch. There was a concern about, are we using the same menus because seniors have different dietary needs than inmates?
staffing is gonna be an
Staffing.
issue, because there are different, they have different collective bargaining agreements, so
We
there
have
are.
different security issues of staff. The sheriff would have to approve anybody who's gonna be working in the facility. The seniors had a fear of the food generated from a facility like that as well.
Even though the food would be the same,
Get over it, everybody.
the same food.
As far as the menu for the inmates, let them eat what the seniors eat. These are
Well,
gonna be good
they
food.
both have different caloric intake
Yeah,
requirements.
you have,
Everybody was just Snickers at once. That sounds crazy to me that that's the reason why we wouldn't use this brand new beautiful
What you're
facility that we have.
required, NYSOFA requires us to provide a meal that's at least a third of the dietary requirement.
No, I'm saying for the seniors, let's do that good senior meal, but let the inmates eat the same darn meal.
Right, it's not gonna hurt.
No,
I
clearly
heard
not. I
nothing
mean,
but
it's sustaining the
compliments
seniors.
on your menu.
Yeah, I mean,
Sure.
there is a lot of people, I think, that are,
They're enjoying your food.
enjoying the food, I mean, that was one thing that we were remarked upon through NYSOFA, was that there was a lot of compliments to the
Yeah.
food.
I think part of the concept that maybe was a little soft pedaled was on the transportation side, because if your eligibility is because you're housebound, we're not meeting half of the goal, which is the socialization and getting people out of the house. Yet keeping them homebound so that they're not gonna then to be institutionalized as well. So the issue of how close can these centers be to proximity of where our seniors are living? And is it, if we're paying a volunteer mileage to bring a meal, can they bring the patient, if you will, or the resident to the center?
They can
And
get
let
out of
them
the
eat
home.
and spend 3 hours in the center rather than just getting a meal dropped off from them and having a 10-minute conversation
The
with a
problem with
volunteer.
that, Sean, is that if I have 10 people on my route, right? So I'm gonna pick up 10 people, take them to the center and leave them off, and then in an hour from now, I'm gonna go pick them up and take them back.
It would be
Number one, the volunteers,
Logistically, you're right.
the volunteers aren't looking to do twice as much, right? Especially on the mountaintop. It's not like you're going a mile and picking up 20 people. You're going 20 miles and servicing 10 people. And
Point taken.
and the other thing is that most of these people that are homebound can't last that long. What I mean is, they're very limited to their ability of what they can do. They can stand up, go over, sit in front of the TV, they can go to the bathroom, stuff like that, but they just don't have it in them to go to a center. and
Their
sit there.
mobility challenge, absolutely.
So I mean, that's what most of the home being serviced are. It's not that they don't wanna go, they just cannot do it.
Great. Great.
I mean, one other area too that we're looking at, so, just to kind of recap on the situation in Jewett is, not only we're spending 18,000 a year in rent, but we spend $1,000 to test the water. We're spending money to renovate, or fix equipment. I mean, there's issues up there, like I said, transportation. I mean, the mileage just to the Jewett Center to get the meals, to go back to someplace like Lexington or, other areas across the mountaintop. They're not really in a good location, I think, and personally. And one of the biggest complaints that we get from people on the mountaintop is it's not on its way to anything. It's not on its way to the grocery store. It's not on its way to the library or the schools or wherever they're going for their trip for the day, for anybody. So it's really, I mean, unless you live right in that Jewett Center area, those are the people that really are only gonna benefit from being in Jewett. So our hope was, and it seemed like we had a lot of positive, reaction when we brought up this portable meal option, that the libraries would suit as a better opportunity for people to really find a more centralized location to go, which would limit the amount of travel for only a few individuals versus the majority of individuals trying to come to a center. And we can continue to offer programming like we do with the YMCA and some of the arts and crafts activities, things like that. We can furnish the library with whatever they need for those, and they could still offer the same process that we are, so they're really not losing much by that congregate setting, other than someone isn't personally dishing the food out in front of you. The other thing that I want to do is reach out to the other townships, because one of the things that I had solicited from the other AAAs was how many people counties were actually paying rent to be in these other facilities, meaning the congregate sites. And we are one of very few counties that are paying rent to operate a meal center. Not only we're paying rent, but we're also staffing it, and then providing the equipment, and then paying any of the extra utilities like internet and things like that. So, our rent alone for all the facilities is more than what we get in congregate, revenue from the state to offer the congregate sites.
Again, back to our conversation, 3 or 4 years from now, if you go use Carol for your cooking, there'll be no rent.
Well, my plan is to say, if you wanna have a congregate center, I think there shouldn't be any rent
Well,
at any of the townships.
Yeah, what I guess what I'm saying is, you got 3 or 4 you're paying to now, they all go away.
Yeah.
In the future. If you use Carol for your cooking, because we have an agreement where we're building that senior center, we're not paying rent anymore.
Right. Yeah, I think, like I said, we're paying, 14,000 to, I think it's Saki. $1,000 a month is town of Caro, 1,200 a month for town of Catskill. And you know, we're furnishing it with all the supplies and things like that, and when it gets rented out to other people, they're using our pots, our pans, our thermometers, our, you know, our stuff is getting trashed because it's
You're looking at about
been
50,000 a
shared.
year.
It's between all the centers, I think we were at, I wanna say it was the high seventies, low eighties in rent for the 4 centers, and then it's about $70,000 in repairs and things like that, maintenance for
So
the
that
Athens
eventually
building.
Won't go away.
So that could go away, which that money can go back into actually
So
providing food.
the meal cost compared to what the senior comes in and pays, what's the difference between?
Our meal cost before we started this process was $18.97 a meal, when you factor in the rent, the cost of the food, and the cost of the employees
And cost of a
cooking it.
meal?
And the cost of the transportation, getting it to and from. So that's part of the problem, is that we're really high in our costs. Now, we have contracts with Delaware Opportunities, that's another thing that's on my list, I reached out to them. You know, they're $7 a meal delivered. So, you know, maybe they can reach some of the harder places, you know, we're using it for some of the places on the Delaware Greene border, but maybe those are the people that we wanna reach out to see if they're willing to add to their cooked meals, and they can drop off for grab and go sites in Prattsville and places that are a little bit close, you know, closer to them. So these are all things that I'm, you know, actively trying to
What is
reach
it,
out
like
to.
$4 or $5 for a meal if you go to a congregate setting?
So right, because that's just a contribution. It's just a contribution.
optional.
It's an optional thing. It's $4 a meal. We don't get as many as you think we would get.
Yeah.
So it's $4 a meal that they're paying to contribute. You know, we give free meals to the volunteers, you know, there was an issue that we were, dinged on by NYSOFA because staff are eating the meals too. So that has to be rectified, and we're gonna work on a program to get that taken care of. But these are all things, like I said, that all factor into that cost, and that cost is exorbitant compared to some of the other counties that are nearby that are paying $8 or $9.
But the $7 or $8 or $9 you're paying per meal to get them delivered, you're still gonna have costs. You're still gonna have to pay the transportation for the delivery. You're still gonna have to have a site center unless it's like Harry says, Carol.
Yeah,
I mean, all the costs don't go away, so it's just not gonna.
they don't all go away.
So
No,
it's
but
not gonna go from $28 a meal to $7.
no, and it's not, but,
It's important people.
yeah, no, but Delaware is at 7, and that's what it costs us for that meal to get delivered to the home. So if we have them take maybe some of the homebound route up on the mountain, because they're close proximity, it would save, we don't have to pay transportation, we don't have to cook that meal, we don't have
If
to.
it's the same
Even-
nutritional value and.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, they follow the same regulations, same guidelines, yep, they have yeah, they have an RD to do that. So again, I'm not saying any of these things are definitely gonna go into motion. These are just all the areas that we're exploring to see if we can do it a little bit better. Because then we can serve more people, right? The idea is that if we can get more people to maybe some of these grab and go sites or things like that, we can furnish more meals. But I mean, at this point, you know, I'm just trying to get costs under control to figure out where we can best serve the clients from, so.
Amanda, this month right now, June, do you think next month you could give us numbers on the daily attendance of different
Oh, absolutely.
senior center
Yeah.
sites?
Yep, I can
So we have an idea of what we're looking at too on
Yep,
a more
abs-
basis.
absolutely, yep. Yep,
Amanda,
yeah.
Is it just for the month, could you do like, or say for all
Last 12 months.
Yeah, I can, so
So maybe some months are busier than other months, just kind of get a good snapshot as to.
yeah, the way they're entered in is they're entered into this database, as tallies, so, I'm sure we can pull at least, like, the daily attendance for the last month, but prior to that, I have the monthly attendance, which you could just divide by the number of days we served that month, and you would get the average, so, yep. So the other option that I'm looking into as well is billing, through managed long-term care plans. You can bill for homebound meal deliveries through that process. There's only 3 managed long-term care companies. It's 3 in, Greene County right now. It's Fidelis, Essentia, and BNS, I believe. But again, that's a small drop in the bucket. I don't foresee it being a huge revenue source, but it may be something that can allow us to open up to people that are outside of the eligibility criteria that we have to follow. They might follow due to medical, diagnosis and things like that, that would actually open up the amount of meals we can serve to people. So that's another avenue that we're exploring. And other than that, we're just still working on, the volunteer program. And we're soliciting some, community groups such as the Bruderhof, the Elks Lodge, and various churches to assist, because some of that allows us a little bit more flexibility. When we're relying on an individual volunteer, we're at the mercy of them feeling well and feeling up to doing it today and not calling out. When you work with an agency, it's a little bit broader, where they'll find somebody to replace the person that can't make it that day. So that's kind of part of our process too, is to try to expand that, so that way some of the individual volunteers can do some of the home visits and things like that, have tea with somebody, bring somebody to a senior center for the day, or do medical transportation.
Amanda, on the budgetary side, do you have the split between what you get federally and state and local contributions for our senior programs that we do?
I do. I mean, I have them all divided up by program allocation, but like I can tell you right now that the congregate setting the cost of the staff to ensure that we have staff at every site, the rental out, the cost for the rent and all that stuff, the Greene County share to the levy right now is $552,000 change. The homebounds, again, and this is just for the staff to make sure that we're delivering home, none of this counts the food costs. Just for the staff, for the homebounds, the volunteers mileage, and some of the other packaging and things like that, for that, the cost of the county is $229,000. And then when I go into the costs for the actual food, the total program cost is 800,000 and change.
That's what the county provides.
And the county's providing about 500 of that, 400, high 400s.
The state gives 147,000 and change. How much does the federal government give?
The state gives how much?
147,000.
For what program?
For the meals program.
They give us, for the meals program, the federal government doesn't give any money. No, the state, they only give us money for the WIN program. You're talking probably about unmet needs.
No, I talked to Greg Olson the other day, and he said that for the meals program, it was 147,000 and change.
I think you're talking about, that's the federal funding for C1 and C2 combined. Cause it's 86,000 for one and another 73,000 and change for the other. So that would give you that number of 147. That's the federal funding. That's not, it's passed through the state, but it's not state funding.
So the state doesn't give you anything?
No, they give us unmet needs money, which that money can be utilized for any program across the spectrum, but that's something that's already, we're underfunded in ISIP services, which is the homebound services, so the majority of that went to ISIP services. And then, like I said, we get about 280,000 in WIN funding, which is for the food. So.
And that's not meal driven,
It's not meal driven.
per capita,
Per capita,
whether or not we have 10 customer or 500 customers.
yeah. So the prediction budget wise cost to the levy is about $2.4 million for the entire program. So for all aging services, which for what it's worth, I spoke with Saratoga County and they're a net zero, or they break even. So, and they have 50,000 seniors versus 11,000 here. But again, there's a lot of legacy costs here that are just, they're not other counties, had difficult conversations with the towns. We're not gonna be able to pay rent. Like if you wanna have us here, it's gotta be you gotta give a little, right? So these are some of the things that, again, just evaluating it, there's been, no decisions made, but it's just stuff that's all plays a role in the decision making on where we should be. Any other questions?
Our, volunteers that are getting the meals. How many are seniors?
So the senior volunteers, I think the majority of them are seniors. I think there's only a few that, I don't know, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. There's only a handful maybe
There's
that are
probably a lot of them eligible for that $4.
contribution anyway, correct.
That's $20 a week.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean-
During time, too.
exactly. So I think that that's for us, I mean, I feel like that's a small drop in the bucket. If we had to pay somebody to work that hour to deliver those meals, it would cost us more than the $19. So, and not all volunteers take mileage reimbursement. Some of them forego it, which is nice. But again, that's the other thing, where some counties pay mileage, they're paying half the reimbursement rate that we are. We're paying the full IRS rate because I believe prior to me coming, there was an issue with retaining volunteers. So the rate went up, but there are other counties that still maintain that 35 cents a mile rate, so.
You know, one of the things that they did on the mountaintop was the supervisors used to go with a meal delivery once a year just to see how it works and operates. It probably wouldn't hurt the legislators to go for a ride and see exactly what goes on, how you meet the people, how do people appreciate what you're doing. And it'd be nice to see your face, I'm sure. It might seem like a lot of work, but at the end of the day, you're happy you won.
Yeah. And we do have like, town of Lexington, there's some employees that come out on their lunch hour and they deliver for us. So I know that, there's a lot of engagement from the towns. And again, some towns financially may be in a better spot than others, but I think we just wanna make sure that, we're just doing what we can to try to get the cost down, because that cost per meal, the problem is with that actual cost per meal has to be what we charge people under 60. So we do have quite a few people that come from the ARC and things like that are, they already have a few seniors, so they maybe bring somebody else with them. And they're paying $4 or $5 a meal, but in reality, because they're under 60, we're supposed to be charging them the full cost of the meal. So, so I don't know, we could get more engagement if we were, again, charging a little bit less, but at this point, we would have to charge employees and everybody that $18 and change a meal. So that's a significant amount of money, and the meal, I mean, not that I don't think the quality of the meal isn't worth it, the value for what you're paying is not. So, you're just not getting a big, huge portion.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so how's everybody tonight?
Great.
Uh-oh, we never.
Good, okay, so here's reality that I know, it's June, in November it's going to snow. Why do I say that? Because that's the starting of heat season, so heat, just so everybody knows, this home energy assistance program, a program started in New York in 1981, so it's 44 years old now. So all federal money, in New York State, it serves 1.4 million people, and I'm talking about $438 billion to the state of New York. So what does that mean to Greene? In Greene, I authorized 4,364 benefits for the close of this year. 1,067 of them were emergencies for a total of $3.2 million. So why did I just tell you all that lovely news? So I'm here because at this point, HHS has dismissed the entire office of the federal government. The door is closed. That's number one. Number two, there's no congressional appropriation at this point. So the line has been zeroed out. I have no signed contracts to start. At this point, I usually haven't signed. I usually start a contract person in September. I get 50% of that work done in September, October, and November. So we can get rolling, because there's no way I can handle 4,364 people in my lobby in 3 months. So I tried to figure out, if there's no program, we still have to do emergencies, because in our regulations, people can't become icicles in their homes. So I took 22, 23, and 24 just for emergencies. And what that comes out to is $805,600. So I met with the state a week ago. There was no information. I emailed them again this past Monday, letting them know, I said, I need to get my contracts in order. Do you think we're gonna get any administrative dollars in time for September contracting? And here was my answer. OTDA will submit a HEAP state plan by the deadline of September 2nd to apply for federal fiscal year 26. We do not have any more information from HHS regarding the timeframe of when or how much funding will be received.
25 is nothing.
I,
25 is nothing.
well, I don't have anything.
Nothing.
I'm standing here, I have nothing.
Ira, has any notification to people, that use this program taken place? So they can prepare? I mean, maybe they gotta put some dollars away themselves for.
If you recall, the state, when they had their delayed budget adoption process, made no amends for pending federal cuts. So state legislature in theory is gonna come back in the fall, when the federal budget is finally adopted at some point in the next, 30 days. Let's see what the actual math is gonna be. But across the board, from any potential cuts, I understand the state's looking at an $8 billion deficit. So I certainly believe the push will come downhill.
Not that we can't hand out $150 checks for the heck of it.
Right, can't print money to pay for this stuff.
Yeah, but let's hand out a
That's
one-time
what's taking
check
place
for $150 and eat up $2 billion.
So I think it would be prudent that notifications take place, some capacity, or some form of it's a,
So this-
within your ability in your department to notify people that, hey,
So I don't mean to cut you off. So this is, the federal government gives the state the money, the state runs the programs within the parameters. It's not for Greene County to say, X, Y, and Z is happening at this point, because we wouldn't even know, who's potentially gonna apply. I mean,
I understand that, but Kyra, you just said that these emergency ones were a total of 800,000. So in that regard, you're looking at the county would have to pick up that tab. Right?
That is correct.
so
And is this a law?
And
You have to pick this up?
in the category, if you have no money and you're out of fuel, then for the emergencies or.
I mean, there's regulation and then there's law. So I don't know which is which here.
So if we don't authorize a benefit, that's in a regulation, they go to a fair hearing, and then I just get a piece of paper signed by the judge saying you shall make this happen, so that's how that.
But you're not saying we're not gonna get any money at all, you're just saying you don't know how much is gonna come through.
I think we're saying we're being told we're not getting any.
Line item,
I think.
line item is-
So there's no office in the federal government, there's no staff, the door is closed, and there's no appropriation.
Bye-bye.
There you
And here I am in June.
Like, I understand that concept about calling pre-notification to the citizens. It would send a shockwave, and then if something dribbles through, then we're gonna send out another memo saying, hey,
It's
correction.
better to send that shockwave in June when it's warm out than in November when it's getting cold and you're like, whoa, I'm freezing.
Well, for someone's ability to pre-plan, how am I gonna change my family budget or my budget in order to put 150 gallons of oil in my tank? I would agree with you. I'm just concerned that the anxiety that we would instill. in the-
Sean,
I know, but man, I live with anxiety every day. Part of life.
Can I ask you this question? So, Kyra, are there repeat families, individuals that we've had that are part of this program? Or does it change every year? We don't know who it's gonna be.
I would have to run the makeup, but I'm assuming.
It's mostly.
They're all repeats.
Yes,
Well, they're not one
yes.
repeats, but
But there are some, so,
it's income eligible every year, so you need to qualify based on your income.
but we know that in, say, the last 5 years or so, there have been repeat,
The same people are on.
It's
So,
mostly the
so
senior.
for those people, would it be safe to say then that most likely they're gonna be applying again this year? That we could send them a notice saying, hey, here's what the situation is. You might not receive any money, so to start planning just in case. Is that something that we could possibly do?
Any letter like that for a program would have to be approved by the state. And that you know, I see a lot of difficulties in that, because what if you miss somebody, what if you don't do something correctly? This is not a Greene County program. And it's also not an entitlement, also, even though we viewed it for 44 years as an entitlement.
So here's a question for you. In your opinion, is it mostly seniors that are getting the relief? Mostly seniors?
Yeah. And it is-
Seniors are on fixed social security.
It's
checks
retired
monthly.
people who end up.
A lot of seniors don't have any other income other than social security.
Right.
And that's more
Correct?
likely
I'm just
majority.
asking.
Mhm.
How are they gonna put money away? Send the letter out. Where are they gonna find money to put away for heat, for oil? They don't have expendable income. They're on limited social security and fixed incomes.
So that's the reason I'm here. And you folks
We
need
got a
to go
problem.
back to the congressional block
Just give,
to get New York and all of the
Change
states
it,
to say,
give.
you know, the federal government, we need this
They
money.
don't have money. They're on fixed incomes. They get $800, $900 a month for social security. They gotta eat, pay medicine. How do you do it? I don't know. I don't know how to do it. I don't think they can. So
So-
we're up against it.
So this is gonna be a big issue. If we get nothing, and if I don't get anything in the next 30 days, there's no way I'm gonna be able to move it quickly. I just can't. The numbers are too big.
You have 4,000, not 4,000 applicants, you have 4,000.
4,364
Clients.
benefits I authorize.
And that, a third of that is emergency?
1,067.
So who pays the fuel companies that deliver to the residents that receive the heat?
It comes out of that.
It comes out of the state appropriation.
State pays them or you pay them?
No, okay, yeah, it's gonna come, for the emergencies, it's gonna come in our checks. For the regular recurring, it's gonna come from, the office in Albany, because they release that pretty much Christmas week. So when they historically release those
I
payments.
think what he's asking is, does Albany pay the fuel companies directly, or the money going to the families first and then the family?
No,
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, a couple of times a year, we've had a couple different deposits, remember? So the initial comes out around December, where each account gets a X amount of dollars deposited in it
So,
that they're qualified to use.
yeah, so what happens
Right.
is, I do all this work up front.
Right.
There's locks on all those accounts. They may put in money. We release the locks and then those checks go out.
Right, so this individual will get like $400 in December.
Mhm.
And that $400 is probably going first week of February, just throwing it out there.
Mhm.
A lot of times you'll see a second deposit. The Fed would let some more money into the heat program, and then there will be a different deposit in that account. The individuals never get their hands on the money. It's paid through the county, filtered down through the state, correct?
State, yeah.
Correct. That's how it goes. So like a bank account,
Mhm.
what you use, and then you could roll over what you didn't use. The next year's bill or?
Well, if you end up in the credit, you know, sometimes.
Is that about credit?
There's been 2 regulars, 1 emergency, sometimes 1 regular and 2 emergencies. Every year it's a little bit different of how they authorize it.
I think the first group we really have to look at, protect is our seniors on social security. We're gonna do something.
Well, what everybody's gonna realize is it's all one big Ponzi scheme. You just steal them from the youth, pay for the next, and it just keeps going and going and going. At some point, there's gonna be a rude awakening for everybody here. There's not gonna be any money around.
Yeah, let them freeze though.
Again, prepare.
They don't have the money to prepare,
Chance favors the prepared.
but they don't have the extra income to prepare. That's what I'm saying.
Be
You look at
surprised, you
$1,000 a
find
month,
it.
no, there's no savings. How you gonna
Be
prepare?
surprised.
At $4 a gallon or $4.50 a gallon of fuel oil, what's that get you? You save $100, what do you got? Maybe a week of fuel? It don't make sense, it don't add up.
That 800,000 was the total for years they used for them. Not the average of per year.
No, that is the average.
That's average.
Some of
That's
them
average.
push over. a million.
Average annual.
So that is the average annual, when I trained it over 3 years.
So
For
a third of
emergency.
that, for a third of that goes down is for emergency.
That's emergency go over. That's
But
the-
that, what we'll have to address is that the emergency consumption is gonna be paid this fiscal year when we have no money budget.
So basically, cold weather period starts November first. So then clients, if they qualify and they have no fuel, they'll be eligible up to 150 gallons. That's an authorization that we've done before heat season closed, but would open up if it was cold weather period.
And if there's no heat program, that emergency number is only gonna go up.
Yeah, it's gonna go way up.
It's gonna go way up.
And that's the problem.
And 150 gallons doesn't last long.
That could double if not triple.
And as Sean said, I have nothing budgeted in the current budget, never thinking of this was gonna happen.
About to get real.
Wait for the price of oil to be the low as it is, and then buy 100,000 gallons.
And all that discussion was just on heat.
That's heat. I don't want to say anything more.
You really don't know what else.
Okay, anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Summer, Friday.
Well, with a little luck, we have some reporters listening to this, and maybe a warning will go out in the newspapers.
Okay, so we have one action item. Budget amendment, insurance recovery for human services. All in favor, oh, sorry. Leg and handle. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passed.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we are closed. Thank you.
Mind that she does.
For all the good news, lady.
I just keep coming.
Tyler.
That's go big. That's what go big.
Here comes another killjoy.
More money spending. Well, almost all good. Okay. I'd like to open up Public Works Committee at 6:48 PM. I'd like to hear from our Highway Superintendent, Mr. Scott Templeton.
Change the rotation.
Yeah. Up once in a while. Fuck that, Couple of changes for the state and federal aid projects, unfortunately, to carry on with some of the bad news. County 40 and 61, we're running into a lot of right-of-way issues. The County 40 bridge up in Wyndham, there was some property line issues that we were trying to resolve through real property tax deeds. I think we've come to a solution to move forward, so that will start moving again. It was stagnated into that right-of-way process, and once this is released, we'll start negotiating with property owners for a right-of-way. And then we can get into the final design, because that one parcel up on County 40 is a major part of the design and final design. So once we get that squared away, we can actually finalize the design of that project.
So it's a 26 project.
That would be an aggressive schedule, more looking at 27.
Oh.
That's the one that has the building.
Correct. Which we're going to need that entire parcel. So we'd have to do the demo of the existing structure that's there, clean that up, and then start the construction of the bridge. So that's why it might start the end of 26 for some of the demo and cleanup of the existing structure, but the bridge portion wouldn't be until most likely 27. Same County 61, we're still trying to get signatures for right away. One of the parcels that we had, we negotiated the price, we came to the final price, then we could not find him. We finally found his contact, and we're getting new check cut sent to him and having that finalized as well. So it's gonna be a struggle to get that slope stabilization done this year. Struggle. Because we haven't finalized that one.
That's probably a foot to 14-inch drop on it right now.
Right.
We were there last fall.
Wow. Yes,
Wow.
It is continually moving. So whether we do the project or not, it still has to be addressed.
The local funded project, County One Culvert in Halkett. The majority of that work has been completed. That is no longer a culvert. It is added to our bridge inventory and is now over 20 feet and is one of our bridges. We have another project, County Two Culvert replacement in the town of Prattsville. That is going to be a bridge as well. So in the past 2 years, we'll probably have 4 more bridges in our inventory because of the new standards for hydraulics and DEC requirements.
What is our policy now, 20 or 25 feet?
20 feet's a bridge, anything 25 feet or over on a town road is the responsibility of the county. Going to the Faulty Road Bridge scour repair, you'll see a resolution to get that done this year. The price actually came back lower than what I expected. And you'll see the breakdown. The high is incredibly high and the low is lower than what we originally estimated. So it falls well this year to try to get as many of these projects finished as possible. We're also putting out 23B slope stabilization and sidewalk repair. The design has been completed. We're putting that out. I'd like to put that out to bid and get prices back. We're expecting that to come back on the 30th if we're allowed to advertise.
That some type of project, would you have to one-way that road?
Yes, during portions of that project, 23B will have to be.
Or single lane? With a
One
light or
lane, yes,
something?
alternate lanes.
Yeah.
But Central Hudson is actually going to be working on the intersection of Snake Road and 23B. There's a lattice tower for their power lines. They're replacing that lattice tower with a monolithic tower, similar to the one right next to it. So they'll be working in that area as well this year. They're looking around September. So we're trying to coordinate our projects together to impact the community as little as possible, but it might work out that we can be there similar time frame. Road maintenance, it's a struggle right now. We're trying to prep for paving, which you'll see the mini bid quotes came out. We have about 19 miles roughly of actual paving, but that's only the actual overlay portion. We still have micro paving, we still have crack sealing, we still have chip sealing. So all in all, we're probably around almost 40 miles of surface treatments. So it's trying to prep for that is difficult.
But that's an expansion from.
It is,
8 years ago.
This, like I said, this includes every different type of surface treatments to the crack sealing, to the chip sealing, micropave. We're doing a lot more different options that are out there. So we're trying to attack it much earlier instead of letting the road deteriorate to a point where we have to repave completely. We're doing crack seal, chip seal, micropave. But with that, we're trying to get all those roads prepared for those procedures, which unfortunately we are struggling to keep up with the regular road maintenance that we have. So it's difficult this time of year. And it's rained so much. It seems like every other day it rains, so it's a struggle to get our work done. But we're still expecting to do that much work this year. We will be pushing into September, October. Hopefully winter will be pushed off slightly. Solid waste department, we're doing well. Volume is still consistently up. You'll see one of the resolutions that put the maintenance building out for bid to see what prices that we have come back. We've purchased, received, and using the tire shredding machine, the sidewall remover for tires, and the rim removal. That's actually working out extremely well for us. It's reducing the amount of tires that we have at our transfer stations. So DEC is loving that because we're not storing as many tires as we
Is
used
the
to.
machine mobile or are you moving tires?
We're bringing the tires down to Catskill.
Oh, from the other site?
Yeah, they'll ship all down
Oh,
there.
all right. What, you just put them in a dumpster and bring them down?
Yep. Right now, that's the easiest way for us because we have a storage, area in the back that's delineated just for the shredded tires. And now we've almost found an avenue to, dispose of the shredded tires, so.
Yeah, cool. So say you guys, what happens if you get a large volume of the sidewall, from the bigger tires? You can't put the sidewalls through the shredder,
No.
get rid of them.
No, we're gonna give them to the towns or, yeah.
So all those sidewalls that are removed, they're the same exact material that you use for construction barrels.
Yeah.
So
How long will that,
we'll never have to buy a construction
yeah,
barrel.
how long will that last?
Wait,
before
never
every town is inundated with
We'll give Ulster County next.
Yeah, I just, so where is the market for that after saturation?
For which one?
Sidewalk.
Shredded tires?
No, we could sell them if we wanted.
Some
There's a market
county
to
and
sell
a
'em.
bunch of people.
Alright, so there is a secondary market.
Yes.
Could make your paving contractors take a bunch of them.
For every mile, you know what?
I love it.
Household hazardous waste days, we've finalized those. It is June 28th in Wyndham. And it is on Athens, it's September 6th.
Number what?
June 28th in Wyndham and September 6th in Athens.
Have you started to see over the years it decreasing the amount that you're getting? Like people are finally getting things cleaned up?
No, not really. Even with the paint care program that they have at like Sherwin-Williams
Yeah.
or Benjamin Moore, or we still see a large quantity of household materials coming in. You'd think that all the houses in garage have been cleaned out by now. It's not. But it's a good program. I think it runs extremely smoothly. The contractor that we use is very good.
A lot of compliments when I see people coming out. They love the process. Quick, easy, you don't have to get out of your car, quick, fun deal, go on.
Yeah, I mean, knock on wood, we've only had 1 year where it was an absolute torrential downpour. It kind of threw us off, but for the most part, it's been fantastic.
What they do.
I know that the hardware store in Coxsackie, if you buy paint and they sell the paint, you can take any leftover
Yes.
paint back to them. I don't know why the state hasn't bought on if you sell it, you have to take back.
That is the case. So Sherwin-Williams, Benjamin Moore, if they sell paint, they have to take the paint.
You're looking, for a body for the, sport.
Yes,
How do you, pull that resolution for the cabin guys?
we,
Put it in the right color?
no, that was a solid waste truck. We pulled that one.
This one's a lift piece.
It's a lift.
Yeah, this is for the sign department.
Okay.
We were trying to figure out what exactly how to outfit it. We were looking at the state, how the state does it. We were looking at all different types of options. And this is the best option that we have moving forward as far as the slide out. They're gonna install the bed and the lift gate, and our garage manager and crew is gonna install the slide out for installing signs. It's gonna be very unique.
Got a signed
Piece of equipment.
vehicle, Columbia County, repairs. Job. Look at it.
Yeah, we've looked at a bunch of different ones, and I think this one's gonna work out the best for us. I'm sure we'll have modifications to it as we go through, but
Would say just watch this, yeah, 1,300 pound weight limit on the gates. Be wary of that. Got one at work that is, very easily damaged.
really.
Okay.
We have one on the back of our truck. I mean, really the heaviest thing that they use is the saw cutting machine. The sign department is unique in the fact that they are the only ones that operate this machine, just because the care that we need to So that's the heaviest piece of equipment that they would be using on that. So I don't believe that it would be overloaded, and with the new trailers that we have, and they've worked out phenomenal. Any other questions? Moving right along. Good.
Thanks, Scott.
All right. Got 8 action items tonight. First one's gonna be authorizing county highway and solid waste superintendent to bid for diesel fuel and gasoline. As in handle. All those in favor? All opposed? So carried. Authorizing the county highway and solid waste superintendent to advertise for bids for County Route 23B Main Street slope remediation in the town of Catskill.
Bueller.
Lennon.
George and Lennon. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Accepting form proposal for the repair of the County Route 1 West Settlement Road Culvert, Town of Holocaust. Leg and handle. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Authorizing change order number 1 necessary for the completion of the replacement of the County Route 1 culvert over Brown Creek, CIN 01-00 or 74-HAL, Town of Holocaust. Leg and handle. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Authorizing purchase and installation of flatbed lift gate for new Ford F-450 XLT sign department.
Lennon.
Thank you, Lennon. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Ordering repair of Bulky Road Bridge over Little West Kill, Town of Lexington, DIN 3-20120-0. Leg and handle. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Awarding quick quotes for paving contract under New York State contract. Martin Edge, Bueller and handle. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Authorized advertising for bids for general contracting for new maintenance building and scale house replacement at the Catskill Town Transfer Station.
Bueller.
I'll do that, second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Anything else to come before Public Works today?
Second.
Very, second. We are closed.